Your 9 to 5 is a tool to gain experience, to gain knowledge. I'm acting as a salesperson, as a business analyst, as a project manager. I made 26K a year. I was like, I can't believe I made 26K on the side. But now we're making 26K a week. Whatever job you have, you should be learning and earning. If you're not doing both of those, you need to switch it up real quick. I was able to start an education technology company that is now worth well over $2.5 million with no outside funding and employs over 20 people. And I did this in just over 2 years, right? So listen to this podcast so you can learn from these principles that have helped me succeed. These principles are from my experience. And my hope is that you apply these principles in your career and in your business in order to find the success that you desire. My name is Mo, co-founder and CEO at SkillHat. SkillHat trains people in tech skills and we put them in tech jobs. And so we've been doing this for about 2.5 years now. We're gonna have our 30th anniversary June 2024. In that time, we've trained well over 1,000 people who've now gone on to land amazing jobs at the best companies in the world. We do training for product management, design, coding, and everything in between. So that's who we are at a high level, and that's what we've accomplished in this short time. Today, I'm going to talk about the harsh truths of corporate entrepreneurship and even family life. Pretty much every podcast will talk about that. So today's topic specifically though is 3 jobs that changed my life and set me on the path to winning a multi-million-dollar business, okay? Why is this important? Why do I want to share this with you guys? Well, because I feel like people misunderstand the power of a 9 to 5. Your 9 to 5 is a tool to gain experience, to gain knowledge, to build relationships, and to gain lots of income that will set you up for financial freedom. Now, financial freedom is a buzzword people use all the time, but what that really just means for me is really having a business that makes money for you after your 9 to 5, or having enough assets that make money for you in your sleep and you don't have to actually work all the time, right? So think of your job as a place someone else is paying you to learn. So it's not a place to grumble, to coast, or be average. Whatever job you have, you should be learning and earning. If you're not doing both of those, you need to switch it up real quick. And so your job should help you figure out how to be your own boss at a point in time in the future. And so thinking of it in that way will really help you to make the right decisions for what jobs you take and how to do well in those jobs because you have a long-term perspective. So I'll talk about these 3 jobs that changed my life and set me up to really live a life that I only ever dreamt of, and I'm excited about every day when I wake up. And I have an amazing team. I really feel blessed to be where I am today, and I want everyone to feel what I feel right now. So that's why I'm sharing this, okay? So I'll talk about each job, what it was, what I did in the company, what the company did, what the job did for me in my career, maybe a memorable story of how I got the job, and something crazy that happened in that job or significant, and a key takeaway. So here we go. First one is a company called Future Strategies, FSI. Now you notice a common theme and a common trend here is the biggest employers I worked for, the government, city of Toronto, and some other companies, were not necessarily the ones that changed my life the most, okay? So that's a trend I've noticed in my life. But as we go, you'll understand. But the first thing I wanted to say is these roles or these companies specifically, you probably never heard of these companies, but they still put me on a path to be able to start my own business and build a great team and a great company of my own, and that has a massive brand. So the first is Future Strategies. This is a company that is here in Toronto, Canada. And what I did with the company, I was a project manager. This was the first job I ever got out of university. Okay, so the company, what they did was they built e-health software. So healthcare technology, like healthcare apps and websites and stuff for like Heart and Stroke Foundation and small healthcare companies, and also big healthcare companies like Abbott, AMO. And Pfizer, the guys who made the COVID vaccine. So we built software for these companies. A very small company. When I was there, it was only about 11 of us, and I was a project manager. So what that means is I helped the company with projects. So if the company had a website to build or an app, I'd be the guy to kind of manage our development team, do some design myself. So what that job did for me specifically, the first job I got out of university, it was so critical because working in a small company allowed me to do pretty much everything. So I was doing the actual sales and business development, meaning that I was working with my boss to go into the company, upsell them on a new product or a new feature, so do the contract, and then do the statement of work, and then do a project plan. So I'm acting as a salesperson, as a business analyst, as a project manager, have some product thinking on. And then when we start building it out, I'm doing some design as well, designing what the screens might look like. So now I'm doing some UX stuff. And then I work with the developers. I didn't do any coding, but I did some testing, so software testing. So I ended up doing some QA as well. So I ended up working across all stages of the SDLC, which means the software development lifecycle, which is the process to build products. And so doing that exposed me to all the stages of the SDLC, from sales. And then when we then built the product for the company, we had to manage the product. And so that also gave me a chance to see how the products were being used by our customers or the customer's customers, and then upsell the customer again on another thing. So that was a great job coming out of university. How I got this job was very interesting. Coming out of school, I was just very curious. So my mom works in like social work. So she's going for a recruiting event for social work. And she says, just drop me off there and go do your thing. And I'm like, cool, I'll drop you off. But you know what? Let me just put on a suit and just come in with you. So I walked into the recruiting job fair with my mom. Again, it was for social work. I was trying to get into tech coming out of university. But I'm like, I'm just going to go in to see what's going on here. So I went in there, I met a recruiter, Dara Clancy, and she was recruiting for like, I think for an executive role in social work or something like that. But she just loved my confidence and my story. She says, you know what, my husband actually runs a tech startup. I think you should meet him. This is like within talking to her in like 5 minutes. And so I ended up meeting her husband for lunch, maybe like 3 weeks after. I had lunch with Wayne, this guy, the founder of Future Strategies. I was just about finishing school when I went to this event. When I was done school, he called me like a month after. I'm like, perfect, I'm done school now, I'm looking for work. He's like, yeah, we got a project, come interview. I interviewed with him, but the key point there is, one, I was so curious, I went to a random networking event with my mom. 2, I made such a great impression with the recruiter, she introduced me to her husband. And then 3, he called me after like 5 months, which shows he kept me in mind. So these are things that I observed. And you could take the story out of there, which is you gotta be memorable, you gotta network hard, and you have to take every opportunity, okay? Well, a memorable story again is I was actually working out at this guy's house. So I was working in his home office. So this company had no physical offices. We're doing all this work for these big healthcare companies, but it was a remote team. We had developers across Vancouver, Singapore, I think, offshore. We had folks in Toronto. But the point though was a global distributed team. I was working out of my boss's home office in his basement. And then one of my actual, like it was my barber actually, he made fun of me. He's like, oh, you're working out of some guy's basement now? And he's like making fun of me. And I kind of felt weird about it because like some of my colleagues were working at like Deloitte and big companies and some fancy offices downtown. But look at what's happening today with COVID, right? This was in 2000, this was like 12 years ago. I'm gonna say this was in the year 2012, 13. So this was like, COVID happened in 2021, right? So now work from home is a norm, but these guys are already thinking about working from home. They cut down the cost, no offices at that time. We were actually ahead of our time, but I was being made fun of by like random people. So my lesson there for you is don't let comments of people who don't matter to you, right? Because it was irrelevant. Like he was just thinking working from home was weird because that was the context of what he had been exposed to. But there's nothing weird about it today because that's how the context is. So don't be afraid to shift out of the mold. The rule of thumb is if everyone's doing the same thing, just don't do it, okay? The other thing I learned is that when you work at smaller companies, you actually end up getting more experience. So specifically, not just smaller companies, but smaller teams with great leaders. So any job you're doing, especially in your early career, look for a company, not just a big name company, but look for a role where you have a great manager, a great leader, great leadership, and essentially a smaller team. Because when you have small teams, you have more responsibility. And that's the first job that changed my career as a project manager with Future Strategies. Okay, talk about the second one. Second one was with VGG, Venture Garden Group. This is all the way back in Lagos, Nigeria. So I went back home after Future Strategies to Nigeria to work with Andela first of all, and then I moved to Venture Garden Group. Specifically, what Venture Garden Group does is a holding company. It's a massive tech company that has smaller companies under it. So the smaller company I worked for was another business unit called EduTech. Now, EduTech, what they do is they help African universities build online versions of on-campus programs. So this was in 2015, 16. And so I was helping universities in Nigeria like Babcock University, Amountability University. These were my clients. We were helping them. My role specifically was VP of Business Development. So this was like my first executive role, executive title, where I'm literally, they called our role the mini CEO. And what that means is you have your own team, your own business unit, and your job is just to grow that business unit 5 times every 3 years. That was the goal. So if we're making $10 million a year right now, in 3 years, we gotta get to 50 million. And so that was like my responsibility. How you do that is through making deals with schools and then growing products. So you're either growing markets and growing customers or growing product. And so what this job did for me was it helped me change my view of myself. I began to see myself as a leader because I had to lead a team, and it helped me get a feel for the incredible power of technology and innovation. So we would have an idea, pitch it to a school, do a proof of concept, and then have it built, and then you would just see money start coming in a very short time because now they're using the product. So that was amazing with that company. How I got the job, interesting enough, I tried to start a business called Aquanova. It was like a water tech company. And I was looking for investors, so my uncle introduced me to a guy called Josh who worked at VGG. Josh liked my pitch, and he introduced me to the CEO, Bumi Akiyemiju, and the co-founder, Kumi Demure. And so they liked the pitch, but the product was not really for them because it was like water tech. It was like a physical device that you would put in the farm to help chickens lay more eggs and all that. So they didn't like the product, but I think they liked me because they called me back like after 7 months. Okay. Chief of Staff Taiwo Ajitumobi hit me up. Mo, there's a list of folks we want. We just raised $20 million in funding. $20 million in funding. I'm like, whoa. He's like, yeah. And there's a list of guys we want. And your name's on that list. I'm like, oh, dope. Okay, what are you talking about? Like, how's your company going? I'm like, it's good, but I don't see myself doing this long term because it was like in the agri-tech space, and it involved me like traveling to see farmers in Ibadan and Ogo, and it was a hassle. So I'm like, I'm probably gonna shut this down, so I'm down to work with you guys. Bro, the interviews were crazy for this role. I had like 5 interviews, a lot of strategy stuff, a lot of finance stuff, because you have to grow a business unit, scale through everything, I got the job. But again, the story there is I got the job by being entrepreneurial, by growing my own business, which didn't really work out. But they saw that and they said, you know what, we love your skills and your presentation. Come help us grow what we're doing here. And so another thing that I learned in that role was about being political. If anyone knows me, you know I'm an open book. Like, I say everything on my mind, I just have no filter. But I got hired in that job as a VP at 23 years old. So they had raised all this money from Convergence Partners, $20 million. So they had a track record of products that were successful. And so they wanted to get some new blood in to help grow these new businesses and help convert this investment into more revenue. But the guys who were there in the company originally who did not get that VP role were probably not happy about that. And I think they had a right to feel the way they felt about it, because I just came in guns blazing, asking all these questions like, why is this way? You know, how do we make a decision on what school we're gonna go to next? Are we using data? Are we using this? Are we using that? And I'm just talking and not really showing empathy and respect for those who were there before. So that was not good on my part. So I learned about there's a way to ask questions, and sometimes you might have 1,000 questions. Don't ask 1,000 questions. Just ask 1 or 2 key questions and comment the work that you've seen people who are there doing when you join a new company. So that was something else I learned about the role, how to be more political and just communicate better as a leader. And I began to see myself as a leader. When I talked about the power of technology and innovation, a big thing that I experienced there was we launched the first online MBA in Nigeria, a master's in business administration. So this was with Amountability University. And when we started this MBA, like the school themselves, the schools use our software and our content creation services. So we go to the school, we essentially will take all the professors to a resort, we shoot the whole program, and we launch and we market it through our software and through social media, and we split the revenue with the school 50-50. So that's like high level. But we did that for Amountability University, which is a big university in northern Nigeria. And then we just scaled that MBA. So because the MBA was in class, you can only take about 300 students a year. When we scaled it and take it online, within 3 months, we had 1,000 people come in. So 3x in 3 months. Like, they would never have crossed the barriers of space and time with an in-class program. So I experienced how the technology just blew it up. I mean, today, I don't know, maybe that program might be I don't know what the numbers are, probably like 200,000 people took that program. But when it was in class, 300 people in 7 years, just 2,100. So now you're like 10x the income, 10x the impact, right? So technology and innovation, that working at that company really helped me see the power of it and now this is what I do daily. Why I left the company, I left because I had to come back to Canada. I wanted to come back here. My family was here. The dollar to naira exchange rate was not going in my favor at the time, so I left to come back here. So that leads to the next job I had when I came here. When I came here, I was working full-time for the government, the city of Toronto, and that was a PM. That's not the job that changed me though. Part-time, I was working in a different role. So let me talk about that. That's what changed my life. The third one. So in this role, I was a partner at Top Run Consulting. A lot of you know my work with Top Run if you know me. At Top Run, I was a partner, and how this whole thing came about, what that means specifically. Top Run was a boot camp. It's a tech boot camp that was training people only in one thing, and that was business analysis. Let's talk about how I got the role. So when I came back to Canada, I had a few gaps. I was in Nigeria for 3 years. So coming back, things had progressed so fast, a few things that I wanted to accelerate. One, I wanted to build a new network of people who have been in Canada progressing in tech. Two, to learn new skills of technical business analysis. I was more so a project manager and a leader and a business development guy. Okay, so I wanted to learn that. And I think those are the two things I wanted to do. So my dad actually hooked me up with Top Run Consulting's co-founder, Babs. He says, go talk to Babs. They have a great boot camp. You can learn BA skills, and they have a network of people who've succeeded that you can connect with. So I did that, and the fees for the program was $1,500. I said to him, Babs, I can pay $1,500, it's fine, but how about we do a deal, and then I'll pay half of that, but I'll help you. I just actually asked to pay half. I'll pay half. He's like, okay, well, why would you just pay half? Like, what are you gonna give me in exchange to pay half the fees? So I said, and then he pitched, he said, well, you have a PM background. We're actually looking to get our PM training license. If you help us apply for the license, then you could pay $1,000 as opposed to $1,500. So he gave me $500 off to do a whole license, which was like probably worth $10K. But I did it. And then after I got them the license, what that work involved, it involved like actually creating a course, creating a project management course, and making it standard and applying to have that course licensed with PMI, which is the Project Management Institute. So I actually did that for $500 off the program. They trained me in BA. I did that work for them. And so they got the license, and Babs was like, hey, we have the license. We can hire an instructor, or if you want, you can teach the course. If you like teaching the course, you can be the instructor. I think he kind of saw that I had those skill sets as a PM, and he knew my work in education with Vision EduTech. So I was like, cool, I'll teach it. So we taught the first cohort. It went well. It was 6 people in that cohort. So what this job did for me as the instructor, as a partner, the partnership share was I would get 40% of all revenue that came in. And then what this job did for me is it helped me build my entrepreneurial skills, because there was no money guaranteed. It was a side thing. After my full-time job as a PM, on the side, I would train other PMs with Top Run, under the Top Run brand. But if I brought in a student, I made it 40%. I could change the product. I could hire a team to support me. I could do marketing, right? So when you work for a company, usually you're working in one role, right? You just do marketing, or you do sales, or you're a coder. But when you're an entrepreneur, you do everything. You're doing design, you're doing sales. So that really helped me flex my entrepreneurial muscles, and I grew that business unit. Like I grew it from like nothing, right, to actually having a program and a product we could sell, to first cohort. And I ran that for 3 years with that company. And I did 16 cohorts, I think. 16 or 20 cohorts. And it grew to making somewhere around maybe like $100K a year in revenue. And that was not bad as a side thing for me from what that program was doing. That was revenue, right? So how I got this position, I talked about it. The next thing I want to talk about is what was so significant about this for me that was really memorable. The thing is, if not for this job I had on the side as a partner at Top Run was so key for my life, because it helped me, doing that work helped me learn everything I'm doing today at Skillhat. At that time, from the 100K in revenue that came in to doing that with the business unit of project management at Top Run, I think I got 26K myself after like costs for taking out. And that was so key. Like we made 26K. I made 26K a year. I was like, I can't believe I made 26K on the side. But now we're making 26K a week or something, right? So lesson there is don't despise the days of humble beginnings. You know, all the skill sets I learned there were so key. And the other thing is I actually, because of that job on the side, if I didn't have that side income, I would never have been able to buy the property I bought and I made a killing off of my first property. So in Canada, usually you can buy a home worth 4 times your income. And then in that role, I was making, like my full-time job, I was making $85K a year. So I think the home I could buy was like $320K. But the house I wanted to buy, $320K, right? The house I wanted to buy was around that, but I couldn't really afford it. So with the income from Top Run, my income shot up to like 105K. So I could afford the home I wanted, which was like, I think 350K. So I bought a condo. Now I can afford that condo because the bank took my side income, combined it with my full-time income, and I could afford a more expensive home. That condo, I bought it in 2017 for 350K. I sold that condo in about 2 years for like over 550K. So I made well over 200K in profit that came to me from that one condo I bought, right? But I would never have been able to get that condo if I didn't have a part-time income from my side gig. So that's the lesson there as well. You gotta have multiple streams of income, and it just helps so much with acquiring assets. It helps so much with just even understanding business and reducing your tax liability. Okay, so I left that role to start. I knew it was time to leave after like 3 years. COVID hit, and I wanted to just cool off and just think about what I want to do next. I took an 8-month break, and then I hashed out the plan for skillhat, and here we are today. So 1, negotiate. If I didn't negotiate and say, hey, can I pay less? I would never have received the offer to do some work with them, and that work led to more work, and that led to more revenue, and that led to a lot of things. So 1, negotiate every single thing. Offer something in return for less money. Offer something you want to do that you haven't done before for less money, right? Offer an intro, offer a referral, offer something for less money to pay out. 2 is act like an owner. While I was at Top Run Consulting, I act like I own the whole thing in a good way. Like I was very critical of the brand, of other programs that were running. I was helping people like it was like my life depended on it. Like I was building programs as though I was gonna be there for 10 years. And that really helped me understand the business. So that's the last lesson there. Act like an owner, everything you're doing. And that's it. 3 jobs that changed my life. I hope this has helped you in a way to see these principles and you can apply them to your own self and your business and your career. If you want to learn more about how to get into tech or how to be a successful business person, hit me up, message me. Hey, thank you for watching. We're gonna do a lot more of these talks every single week. Subscribe so you can get the alert and it comes right in your inbox. Catch you on the next one.